Once upon a time, two friends joined forces to bring you the best in horror entertainment. Brian from the north, Tim from the south, each bringing their own unique perspective to the horror community. Movie reviews, Blu-ray releases, beer pairings, games, and more. Welcome to your new home for horror. This is Civil Gore.
Hey there, everybody. Welcome to episode 203 of the Civil Gore Podcast. I'm your host, Tim.
And this is Brian. I don't know about you, Tim, but already in the first 5 minutes, I feel like I've aged a little bit.
Yes, I know. Well, actually, my voice is shot, so I might actually be aging as we see. We actually recorded an interview tonight and the November dismemberment, so
yeah,
we're getting a little. I'm getting a little raspy, so apologies in advance. Although I do have a new pop filter, so you guys don't have to hear my plosives.
Yes, your
anymore.
plosives are perfect.
Yes. So that's been really bugging me the last several episodes, but finally got a new pop filter, so we're good to go there. So let's get right into it, Brian. We have a pretty cool show for you tonight. A movie I've been wanting to watch for quite some time. Olivia finally got a date night, so we were able to sit down and watch this one. But first up, it's our first chop. All right, so Brian, I had this fun little thing I've never done before, which was a corn maze. That's what we did this past weekend. There's a farm about 45 minutes from us called Galloway Farm. They have what's called the Maze Craze. And they have a lot of other little things around, for the kids. Like mostly, I would say, mostly geared towards toddlers. They have like cornhole and little, playground type slides and things like that. But their big attraction is a 13-acre corn maze. And it's got about 5 miles of trails in it. Of course, they cut a new design every year. This design was based off, I guess the farmer or whatever is a fan of Lucas Nelson. So he had a big Lucas Nelson, almost like a poster that he designed into the field, which was the maze. And what's really cool about it is the maze entrance and exit is the same entrance and exit. But when you go in there, you have 10 checkpoints that are scattered throughout the maze, and they don't tell you where those are. So you have to go and scan a QR code at each checkpoint and then make it back out of the maze. And if you do that and then scan the final QR code, it records your time and puts you on a leaderboard and all this stuff, and you get entered for a drawing or whatever. But what makes it fun is it's not just you have a map, so you know how to get around the maze. But the trick is trying to find all the checkpoints. So it really forces you to explore the entire maze to find all these things. So it was a lot of fun. We had Joshua got a little tired because it took us about an hour and 45 minutes to get through it. And we walked about 3.5 miles through the thing. So poor little fella, his little short legs, he was pretty tired. But we had a blast with it. I would love to go back. I'm really actually kind of bummed I did not know about this thing before this year, because I would have gone every year. No doubt. So, if you're in the Lake Waccamaw area of North Carolina, check it out. It's pretty cool. I had a really, really good time there.
Wow, that sounds awesome. Yeah, and so I only got to watch. I know that I think they're up to 3 already, but I got to watch the first episode of CHUCKY series, which I absolutely loved. Devon Sawa. Wait, is it? Is it Devon or Devon? It's Devon? Okay, Devon Sawa. Yeah, so but of course he's fantastic, and as you heard last week our interview, we talked about him a little bit with Stephen R. Monroe, and so he's so great in it. And so like the fact that he's added to this franchise is really good, and the series starts off with the first episode's very like scene setting, which, a series has to do at some point, especially trying to catch you all up from the franchise. And it's really good. I love the way, Chucky interacts kind of in like more of a real world setting, if that makes sense. Like in this one, he's like, in the other ones, he's usually like, he's got like a small circle of where he is, and this he's like literally, not to spoil much, but there's one scene he's literally in front of an entire assembly of students doing his kind of like his chuckiness. So it's just really great. I think if you're a fan of the movies, I think at least for the first episode that I've seen, I got to catch up on the other 2. Busy with this horror challenge here, it's kind of tough to to find some free time, but I managed to grab this one quick, the first series, and I think fans of the series should love this because I think it's kind of gives you what you want out of it, and the fact that it's Mancini's doing it, and it's not. Apologies to my Mark Hamill, who I love, but I still haven't watched his version yet. But because I like the old school franchise, so it's definitely and they have the older characters are in it. They weren't in the first episode really, but they're out there in the world, so definitely a really cool thing. Second thing I watched that Famously Haunted on Amityville on Tubi, is one of their original documentaries, and we've been kind of gushing about Tubi lately too.
Yeah.
I mean, what they did for Halloween, I think they added something like 500 horror movies. And then a bunch of original, and plus, of course, the Harlan Manor one, which we talked to Stephen Monroe about. We have not yet, at this point of when we're talking, that we haven't seen it yet. Hopefully, when this episode drops, he'll have seen the other movie. We'll talk about it in the next one because it sounds really cool about a haunted house. A team of paranormal investigators going into a haunted house, which Tim and I always love. But yeah, Famously Haunted on Amityville is an interesting documentary. It's basically, it looks like it does a lot of it shows a lot of people how they've gone to different bloggers and stuff, how they went in front of the Amityville. I'm which is, as I've said before, it's not too far from where I live, maybe about 8 minutes down the road. So it's it's so funny to see people stand there. I'm hey, it's they're brave because there's a big old sign right in front saying do not stop and take pictures. But if you look in the videos and stuff they've taken, this documentary, they're all on a kind of a slanted diagonal path from it because because there are signs that tell you not to do that. But yeah, so it's a really cool thing. But then they basically go in and they give some stuff that I hadn't seen, some footage I haven't seen the documentary, and they kind of. Not to, I don't want to spoil too much of the documentary because it kind of builds into a little something there, but it's definitely a really cool documentary. It's got some neat stuff that I haven't seen in previous Amityville documentaries, and I've watched them all. So definitely check that out on Tubi because I'm telling you, Tubi, between Tubi and Shudder, it's I'll tell you, they, and think about it, basically because Tubi's free right now, so for literally $6 a month, you can get 1,000 horror titles.
Yeah.
Because Shudder's got 500 or something on there.
Yeah, I definitely want to see this one out, especially after watching that. Watched one called Amityville Murders for.
That one, yeah, that's the one where what's her Diane Franklin returns in it, but she's she's a different person in it. Than she was
yeah. So it was. I actually enjoyed it. It was pretty good. So I definitely wanted to watch this documentary on Amityville because I kind of was in that mindset. So yeah, I definitely want to check that one out. All right, well that brings us to our main feature. This is one I was looking forward to. M. Night Shyamalan's Old. From this year, starring Gael Garcia Bernal as Guy, Vicky Creeps as Prissa, Rufus Sewell as Charles, Alex Wolff as Trent, age 15, Thomason McKenzie as Maddox, age 16, Abby Lee as Crystal, Nikki Amuka Bird as Patricia, Ken Long as Jaren, Eliza Scanlon as Kara, age 15, Aaron Pierre as Midsize Sedan.
Yes,
that always trips
name.
me up. Yeah. Mbeth as Davids, adult Maddox, and Mbeth Davids as adult Maddox. Eamon Elliott as adult Trent. A vacationing family discovers that the secluded beach where they're relaxing for a few hours is somehow causing them to age rapidly, reducing their entire lives into a single day. And Brian, I don't know that we could talk about this one without spoilers, so I'm just going to throw a spoiler warning up.
Yeah. I mean, pretty much, if we're discussing a new film, it's safe to say some spoilers are going to come out, especially if it's the topic. If it's in the first chop, most likely we will not give any spoilers. But when it's the focus of the episode, we pretty much count on some spoilers.
Yeah, I mean, sometimes we try to avoid it, but in this case, my criticisms of the film require me to spoil it. So yeah, just be forewarned. If you have not seen the movie yet, you may want to skip this episode until you've seen it and then come back. So so I was looking forward to this one. I've always been a pretty optimistic Shyamalan guy. I a lot of people got turned off of him after after he made a couple of duds. I've always had I've always carried a little kernel of faith in him that he'd get back, and he has. He's really, I think he's redeemed himself for the most part. He did make a couple of little flops there. I did not like The Lady in the Water. I did not like The Happening. But
The
I liked
Visit
all,
was good though.
Yeah, The Visit was good. I liked all of his stuff up to that point. I mean, up to the point of the lady in the water, and then of course I love the Unbreakable, that whole series.
Oh god, yeah, that.
So I mean, he's done far more good than bad. So I don't think he should be judged on the strength of just a couple of films that I didn't really care for, and I don't know. The Happening, I think is. I don't think I'll ever like that movie. But The Lady in the Water is probably one I should revisit at some point because it may be one that I changed my mind about. But so I was really looking forward to this one. I did like you said, Brian, The Visit was really good. So I was looking forward to this one, and I'll have to say, this is one of those movies that it was really, really tough for me because I enjoyed it. I was entertained by it. I had a good time with it. But at the same time, I had a lot of criticisms of just plot hole type stuff, inconsistencies I didn't like. So, but that didn't stop me from enjoying it. So it's one of those that when we did the Halloween Kills roundtable,
Yeah.
I had a lot of criticisms of the film that took me out of it and made me not enjoy it as much as I probably would have otherwise. Whereas in this film, it's kind of weird because I had a similar amount of criticisms of the movie, but at the same time, I still liked watching it. So take that for what you will. I am going to probably criticize it quite a bit in this episode, but it doesn't mean I didn't enjoy it. Me and Olivia said I had a great time. So it's one of those that just take it with a grain of salt. I mean, you're either going to judge it super harshly because of those plot inconsistencies, or you're just going to just let it slide, kind of like what I did, and just go with it. So, but yeah, this one, this is based off a graphic novel called Sandcastle. So I don't entirely pin the blame on M. Night for any plot inconsistencies here because I have not read the graphic novel, and I don't know how much of that was taken from the graphic novel. This is not his original story. So maybe that helped me kind of not be as critical of it in a way because I knew it was based off a different source material. It was not an original idea. So
Right.
What'd you think of it, Brian?
I mean, I think I have the same way. It's like I don't know if I have as how many criticisms I have per se. Like some of them were my own like things, and I don't know if it's a fair criticism. Like just for example, I did enjoy it. Like I do count this as a movie that I enjoyed and that I liked overall. But there was I mean. And here's the thing: is this one criticism I'm going to give? It's like I get why they did it. It just there was something about it, and I don't know what it was. But with like some of the dialogue choices in the early stages of this movie, I don't know. There's something about it. I'm like, and when I say that, it's just like the lines seem awkward. But the thing is, once the movie gets going, you're supposed to get this disorienting, like kind of uncomfortable feeling. So. If it carried over into there, that was intentional. But I'm talking even more about the very early points of dialogue. I don't know. It just seemed weird. But
yes, Olivia pointed that out too. She couldn't quite get the relationship, I guess we'd say, between the two main characters because there was something off there. And we
right?
learned through the plot, kind of what was going on. But I found. And I hate to say this because I love diversity in movies and different backgrounds and different nationalities. I think that's fantastic. The two leads in this one, I just found myself really distracted by their accents, and I don't know why.
They're very heavy accents.
They're very heavy accents,
yeah,
and no reflection at all on the actors because the actors did a wonderful job.
They're great, especially Gail Bernal. He's a very Gail Garcia Bernal is a very accomplished actor.
Yeah,
he's really good.
These were both phenomenal actors. It's just for some reason it made the dialogue feel like you said, Brian, kind of stilted. I don't know what was going on. It just never really flowed for me, and that distracted me the entire movie for some reason.
Yeah, see, it's so funny. That was the same thing. Now, I did watch it a second time, and with that, out of the way, it didn't bother me as much the second time. But it may have been because now that that initial I expected it now, so
Right,
it,
you had a
it
little
wasn't as
familiarity,
distracting.
yeah.
So now, granted, you should not have to watch a movie necessarily a second time to get past it, but because it obviously, and for lack of a better word, a problem with it, because it may be something that's just you and me have an issue, or Olivia in this case might it may just hit us wrong. And there's really nothing wrong with it. But other than that, I mean, overall the movie was really enjoyable, and it moved pretty quick. I mean, it's funny when you say that based on the plot, but it kind of felt like you were constantly moving with it, and it never really dragged on, which this could have dragged on.
Yes.
So, if you want to criticize him, I think in some spots, I think this is definitely one where I think he did good. With the pacing was really well done with this. Some of the things though that I thought were a little a little off. Where I think some of the I don't know. It's hard to put my finger on it. There were just some spots where I felt like something else should have happened, in addition to what was going on, that would have made a little more sense. But right now I'm struggling to think of an exact specific, but.
Oh, I've got 5 of them.
Yeah, I just found myself going, well, why? Wait a minute, why wouldn't this happen, or why did this happen? And another thing I have to say, and this is, I mean, probably a lot of people feel this way too, but I mean, this is so on me because I was such a fan of the show. I got such a major Lost vibe in this.
Yeah.
And, it's obvious why, but, even some of the sequences, I'm like, oh, my God, this feels like this could have been an episode of Lost, easily put in there. Because of, they were on this island, we don't know what's going on, there's something going on, is it mystical powers, is it this, is it that, is it whatever, kind of a thing. And, it's just some of the stuff, and, there's a little bit of nitpicky things, toward, and here's a major spoiler, but at the end, when the kids are adults, I get it that they established that the young boy kid was super smart and way ahead of his years in dialogue. He just, yes, and they tried to have, they still have that kid-like atmosphere. But I think, unless I guess the brain, when it develops. I mean, obviously things develop fast in this movie too, but, would his...
No, that's
would all his dialogue go that way, and would his mannerisms go? I still think he would be very childlike.
He would be, because you have to. That comes from experience. Your cells aging doesn't magically make you learn new vocabulary. I mean, that's the thing I had a problem with too. Is he would still be talking like a 6-year-old,
right?
But I mean, he.
Yeah, and I mean, the scene that, there was a nice, scene where he goes, hey, before we go, they try and make their escape. He goes, hey, before we go, let's build a sandcastle. Yeah, that's something a brother and sister would kind of do, on a beach. But, he said it as almost like it was forced, I'm going to really try and push my youth back. I mean, I'll tell you the one thing, though, that they definitely did get right, that kind of helped this movie along, is that the levels of age, the actors that they hired...
The casting was phenomenal.
Yeah,
the casting was great. But I'll tell you my inconsistencies with the movie that I had a problem with. All right, so I mean, you guys, hopefully, if you're listening to this, because we have such heavy spoilers, you've already seen the movie, so you know what we're talking about. But number one was the one you pointed out, Brian. The characters matured, intellectually, when really their bodies were the only ones growing. So I didn't like that part. Number two, they make this silly comment about they explain why their fingernails and hair isn't growing out of control, and they said, because I guess it affects dead cells differently than living cells. Yet you have a dead body on the beach that it's decomposing just as rapidly as they're growing.
Oh, that's right. Yeah, that I almost forgot about that part. Yeah, that part. The first time I think that bothered me, and the second time I don't think it I remembered it, that it bothered me.
Then I was thinking, well, does that apply to the food as well that they got? So I mean, they got this pasta salad. Is it not aging rapidly, or I don't know? Maybe it's
and it's only supposed to be. Yeah, I mean, is the food maybe? Well, remember, I did read somewhere that something with the food was in those containers. Maybe the containers had some kind of established.
They were in a foil wrap, I guess.
Yeah, maybe that was some sort of protection against the island's the beach's elements at that point. I don't know. I think whatever it is, but I mean, granted, and it still only takes place in actually 24 hours of real time, right?
Yeah, but the other thing I didn't like was I had a big problem with the baby thing. So the woman gives birth to the baby, and like the baby instantly dies. Right. And she was like, "Oh, I just set it on the towel for a minute, but it died of inattention." And I'm like, "Okay, I get it." So if the baby's aging rapidly, sitting it down for a minute and not feeding it would probably be equivalent to like sitting it there for 2 weeks and not feeding it.
Right.
But at the same time, why doesn't everybody else starve to death? Because they still have to eat in some period of time. You see the kids eating a lot, like to represent because they're growing. But
right.
all the adults should have starved to death at that point, if that's the case. So if that's not the case, then why did the baby die? I mean, stuff like that just drove me crazy. It was so inconsistent.
Yeah, and there's a lot like that, like, and you don't want to fall into that trap of over-explaining everything, but this is a movie where it's like, the fact that they're not over-explaining it it's a detriment in some spots because two similar situations happen opposite ways. And right. I feel like every so often they'll throw in some kind of thing, well, oh, it must have been this. But you don't really know if that's what it is. You never feel like, you don't like trust in the answer, a lot of time.
Well, then there's the, one of the other ones I really bothered me was the whole premise of this is that this company is using these people as guinea pigs for their medicines so they can test the medicine on these people in a matter of a day that would have normally taken a lifetime to test. But why are you killing innocent kids along with this when all you have to do is say no kids, nobody under 16 allowed at this resort? I mean, the real resorts in real life do that.
Yeah,
there's real resorts that ban kids. So you're allowing these innocent children who have no medical issues to go with their parents on this beach and die with them for no reason. And that bothered me.
Yeah, and also another thing is, I guess based off the rules that this establishes, is wouldn't the medicines themselves have to be able to, basically, take advantage, for lack of a better word, of the magic of the island area? Because because granted the person's aging to it, but if the medicine stays the same, is that really the positive test of this medicine? Like, how do you know? If it really worked?
How do you know what dose to give? I mean, I can kind of explain that in a way. I could say they've done enough experiments that they know how to maybe create the medicine to take that into effect, maybe, or take that into account. But I think the last problem I had with it was the coral. So they end up escaping the island through this coral bed, which they swim through, which somehow the coral magically protects them from the island so they can actually get away. And I just thought it was too convenient because, to my knowledge, I never saw them mention the coral at all until it was suddenly necessary to get them off the island. And I just thought that was a mistake. Like, I felt like that should have been a clue early on, that then it would loop back around and go, oh, that's why the coral down he brings out the message and that's how he realizes, at the end of the movie, he decodes this message from the kid, and that's how he finds out about the coral. But it's all at the end of the movie when it's suddenly needed for an escape. Yeah. I wish it had been hinted at earlier.
Well, because M. Night Shyamalan, of course, he's got his movies, regardless of whether he tries to have those quick, big twist endings of his first bunch, but even with this one though, it still has some of that formula in it where it's like, there's little hints, like when they say, oh, there's lots of food, and it goes, oh, that's a lot of food for the kids. It goes, well, kids need to eat a lot. There's weird things like that, and then of course the opening, and there's some stuff in there where it kind of like. There's a trait, and the fact that they're him and that kid have this bond so quickly, and and the kid kind of says, well, no, you'll go away, and the kid still doesn't believe it because he kind of knows that this kid is probably not coming back unless he helps him, so he kind of gives him that message, and then he wouldn't you figure that would have been the way that he had it? That would have been the first thing he did when he got to that island was decode his friend's message, it's weird, yeah. I mean, and granted, now you hear these criticisms, we hope it definitely doesn't deter to if you're watching this, because it's still, like we said, it's an enjoyable movie, and it's still a really good movie, and there's some sequences in it that are just really gripping and rough to like the one, of course, the Abby's Lee's character Crystal when she's crawling in the cave.
Oh yeah, that was really creepy.
I mean,
that was
was
really
like
well done.
really like cringe and like, but like so well done. And the big with the part with the tumor. I mean, there's a lot of like creepy stuff in it going on, and it's like, and, and I like some of his shot choices, like where they're like, it's like the it's a little disorienting, some of the shots of it when it's like a POV of somebody in there, and it's like, so I mean, there's definitely some like, it's handled by a director that maybe not at the level of M. Night Shyamalan. This movie may not have been good at all. Could have easily been really bad.
He made some interesting directing choices. Like you said, there's some really strange shots in here that I actually noticed. That was going. That's kind of an interesting way to do it. It's almost. Well, I don't want to say disjointed because it was definitely intentional.
Oh, it was intentional, Dad, because we watched, actually, Julie and I watched the special features, and he said there, he goes, he purposely filmed shots around the movie, sweeping shots where he didn't even care if the line delivered got caught on the camera. He said he wanted to move this camera at certain times. He wanted it to circle around. He wanted to go sweeping past. He wanted it to be really disorienting the entire time. So he actually said, it was a contest, he goes, you know what? We caught the line, but it may not have been, the camera may not have been on the person. They may have delivered it after the camera passed them already, and that was fine. That's what I wanted.
Yeah, I definitely picked up on that.
Definitely intentional. Yeah.
Yeah. So I don't know. It doesn't rank up there to me with his best movies. I'd kind of put it middle of the pack for me, only because of the numerous plot inconsistencies. But at the same time, I think another reason I kind of let it slide a little bit is that these movies that are based on kind of like this Twilight Zone type premise, like you said, it's one of those things that sometimes when you have such a good premise, which I think this was, that's a really cool premise about characters aging. I think sometimes you have to just accept it because otherwise the premise does fall apart. It's a very paper thin premise, but it's super cool and you want to explore it. But if you explore it too deeply, it's going to fall apart. And I think in this movie, it did fall apart a little bit, but that doesn't make the premise any less cool. So I kind of wanted to go along with it. And I think you kind of have to do that. I think you have to do that with a lot of stuff, and it depends because I might sound a little hypocritical there because there's movies I pick apart and I don't enjoy because the premise is thin. But again, maybe that's just a testament to M. Night's talents as a director that in this one I didn't mind it as much.
Yeah, one of the things I like too is like I think the cool thing, is because obviously, you want to compare it. Obviously, different setup of this, the way they ended up there. But, usually in movies or shows or anything where you're trapped on an island or a beach or whatever you want to call it in this case. I mean, it's definitely kind of more of a beach than an island. But so when you're caught there, usually the one thing you have is time. And the fact that they kind of left this as a running clock, at the same time. So they're dealing with all these problems and it's coming at them so fast. And they know that if they don't solve it almost in 24 hours, they're not going to survive, and it's like, to the point of where they, some of them make bad decisions. Some of them make decisions they think, well, what the hell at this point, like I have to go, like when Ken Lung's character, who another Lost comparison there was kind of funny. Yeah. He's such a great actor. Anything really he's in, I absolutely love. And he was really good in this too, and the fact where he's like, "Oh no, I'm a real swimmer." It's like they kept making the thinking that it was just an endurance test. Like, oh well, I won't pass out because I'm a good swimmer. Not realizing really, like, hey, wait a minute, maybe it's not the endurance is the key. It's more of a, you have to find out the exact what to do, not so much like, yeah, sure, it's easy. I'll just keep swimming until I find something. Well, yeah, that's the obvious one, but obviously it's not. It didn't work, and it's not going to work. So, but it's like they kept testing the wrong water. Like the one girl thought she'd be able to climb straight up, and get out of there.
And yet they never test the theory that might have actually worked, which was his theory that they could walk slowly through the cave. And let their bodies adjust, which they never tested. So we don't know.
They never even tested the one that. Yeah, I mean, I don't. Obviously, based off of what we know, probably wouldn't have worked, but still.
Yeah. But, now I will say I did like the the message of the movie and the graphic novel is that life is not about the length of your life; it's the events and choices, and it's the quality of your life, not the length, that really matters. And I did like that message, and I think that may be another thing that kind of softened me, despite all my criticisms. I like that message, and I liked at the end where the sandcastle kind of represented that the quality of them spending time together was more important than the amount of time they had left. So I liked the movie overall. I thought it was a cool message. I thought it was like a cool Twilight Zone premise. Definitely has some major like scientific inconsistencies there that I didn't really agree with. But it's worth a watch. I would definitely recommend checking it out because it's definitely it definitely was entertaining, despite my nitpicks. Which I've been grumpy lately with the movies.
Yeah,
Brian.
I've been really grouchy. Well, you also are watching a massive amount of content in a short period of time.
True,
The horror challenge is draining at times. When you want to see something else, you're like, oh, but it's not fitting in right now into the horror challenge. I gotta watch that. I gotta watch it. And it's like normally I'm like by this point I'm in such a good shape. I like have a cushion. Like I'm literally like a day behind kind of thing. I kind of like average out. I mean, I know what I need to watch and when I gotta watch it, but it's still tight. I got family coming in. We got the podcast. I got other things.
Yeah, it definitely takes its toll. But anyway, let's. I guess we'll get to our beer pairing, Brian.
Yes.
I know this episode is going to be a little on the shorter side this week, guys, but it's partly because we've recorded so much tonight. Our voices are about shot. So we'll go right into our beer pairing. And Brian, you came up with a doozy here. This is a great beer pairing.
Yeah, it's called Secret Beach, and it's by Meanwhile Brewing Company. At 6.1% ABV, and it's our San Diego style beer as a homage to Pizza Port Brewing and their bold, delicious IPAs. Little to no caramel malt. The malt bill is there only to balance and never distract from the citrus and dank hop character. So a little bit more of a description thing. It's a golden IPA with clean, light biscuit malt character that allows hop flavors to shine through. We taste and smell marmalade, blueberries, and the devil's lettuce. Not sure what the devil's lettuce is, but that sounds really good there. It says goes, and I even added this. It goes well with a California burrito, Takis Fuego, char-grilled vegetables, and lazy beach afternoons. So I don't know if old counts as a lazy beach afternoon because it sure doesn't. It starts lazy maybe, but then really doesn't stay that way. But
no. All right, so our triple threat from last week, we were looking for an actor or actress, and this was a toughie. I don't know if we got any correct answers on this one, Brian.
Yeah, no, I haven't. No one really. The first one everyone got, but this one was definitely tougher. But
so we might have stumped you here. So clue number one: I was in 2 holiday horror films. We were talking about Amy Steele. She was in Friday the 13th Part 2 and April Fool's Day. Clue number 2: I once shared the attire of one of the most famous killers of all time, although it was in a different film from them. So Amy put on the sweater of Pamela Voorhees in the climax of Friday the 13th Part 2.
And I do a lot of times in the game, Friday the 13th.
That's right.
Cone is Jason.
And clue number 3, although I was considered the final girl in my most famous role, I was not the only main character to survive. This is in reference to Amy's role as Jenny Fields in Friday the 13th Part 2. She is known as the final girl, however, technically Ted, another counselor at the camp, never returned from the bar. Also, there were a number of unnamed counselors shown that may have survived as well. Also, technically, Jason survives, and arguments for Paul Holt are being alive as well. So,
and that when you think about it, that really, when I read that, I'm like, you know what, that's true, and that really breaks the mold. Mm-hmm. Usually, final girls are usually final girls. They're
like you've seen every other dead body,
yeah. But there was a whole bunch of unnamed counselors that you never saw again, and then there was of course, Teddy, because he went to like another bar or after hour place or whatever he called it, right? So,
all right. So this week we'll see if we can make it a little easier for you. We're looking for a movie, so listen closely. Clue number 1: I was originally released with a completely different title in theaters. So it was released originally with a completely different title. Clue number 2: my writer and director was inspired to create me after a chance encounter. And clue number 3, a very popular slasher sequel was filmed in the same location as this film.
Which I did not know until I did the research on this.
So what am I? This is a movie. There's a lot of choices there, so that could be tough. It could be tough.
That one could be a tough one.
All right, so our fan topic food question of the week is from our good buddy John Eversole. And he asks, how does it feel to have gone from horror fans to horror royalty?
Well, yeah, as I kind of answered him, he wanted this for the show too, but I kind of gave him a quick answer, and I kind of chuckled. I'm like, I mean, well, I appreciate being called that. I definitely don't know if we're up there in horror royalty, because to me, that's like Joe Bob. That's, or like, the Jamie Lee Curtis and stuff like that.
I feel a long way from horror royalty.
Yeah.
But I think the sentiment, I think probably John was trying to get across is going from two buddies that just started this horror podcast 5 years ago, not thinking anybody outside of our immediate family would ever listen to it, to the point now where we're getting interviews with directors and actors and writers, and that part has been, it's been super cool. It's been great. It's something I never expected. It's been a nice side benefit of the podcast. It's been a ton of fun. It's been it's really weird that the internet allows people to get that close to creators of stuff that they love through social media, and then through like this, of course, the shows open up all kinds of opportunities to be able to actually talk to these people, in person, not face to face, but over Zoom or whatever. I think it's been super cool. It's been super, and I'm super appreciative of it, because without this podcast, we wouldn't be talking to these people. And becoming great friends with a lot of people. That's been the other side benefit, that we've made so many friends through the show.
Yeah, no, and that's the thing. It's like, great to talk to celebrities and creators and stuff. But to me, it's like my favorite thing is interacting with like a John Eversole, and David McHugh, and David Terry and Cody, and and all getting to talk to people, and Jeff Whitmire, who has been our champion for this horror challenge and getting it out there for us. Oh my God, he's getting watch parties as he does it and everything. It's great, but stuff like that, it's that's where I really get some of the the enjoyment, that, and even talking to other fellow podcasters, of course, with Kim and Ket, and then to see other people people we've had on the show then do podcasts Xanthi and Laura Marie Taylor, all these people that are doing doing podcasts too, and it's kind of fun, because it's who knows, man, I don't know if there's anything to do with it, but maybe, I'd like to think maybe just one, the experience that they had a positive one on our show may have said, oh, well, you know what, podcasting seems fun, even if it's the tiniest little fraction, we could have, helped people discover podcasts. That it's
which is how we, of course, as you guys know, that's how we got started in it, was because podcasts we love. So it's kind of one of those things, you kind of share the wealth and inspire other people that just like we were inspired. So that's a lot of fun.
Yeah, and I will say one of my favorite things too is when someone will on social media kind of just tag us and ask hey, what do you guys think of this, and stuff like that. To me, that's pretty much really, what are we compared to anybody else? We're just two guys that talk about horror, but it kind of it does feel good that someone trusts us enough or likes us enough to just ask us, and we're super approachable people anyway, so it's I remember, one of the best compliments we get sometimes is oh wow, they're so great, they answer, or they'll interact, and I'm like, why wouldn't we? We love that, we love that from either side of the podcast, either whether as a listener or as a podcaster. So
yep. So I'm looking forward to many more years and see where this takes us, because I think I've been really surprised that it hasn't taken 5 years to get to the point of getting these interviews and stuff. I think that really started around year 2 or 3.
Yeah.
It's really accelerated. I mean, it's gotten really it's accelerated the more we've gone on. So that makes me excited about what the years ahead could bring. So yeah, it's a fun ride. It's a lot of work. The podcast is a lot of work. It's a lot of time, but it's a fun time, and we wouldn't be doing it if we didn't love it. So
Right.
Yeah.
And I'll tell you one thing though. We should promise though, if we do ever become actual horror royalty, you guys will all be in our court. We'll
That's
need
right.
we'll need all our friends with us.
Yeah,
What's
we
the
will
point?
we will hold court.
Yes, we will hold court in the center of the New Jersey Horror Con. No, that's reserved only for Richard Grieco.
Yes. Oh my gosh. Well, we've milked New Jersey Horror Con.
Yeah, I know, but I can't. We got to go back one of these.
We got to go
times.
back so we can have new stories because they're.
I'm so
tired of hearing our
toying with
stories.
November. I'll tell you, but I just don't. I think it's just too busy of a month for me. I can't.
Yeah, it's tough. That's always a tough
Maybe
time.
we should shoot for the March one. We should try and make a return.
Yeah, that would be fun. All right, guys. Well, we will see you back here next week. Have a good one.
See ya.